Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third day afternoon session. Here we have with us our resource person, Dr. M.J. Davidson, sir, Associate Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, NIT Warangal. Let me introduce him in short, in brief. So here is his profile, sir. He has done his BE from MS University 1998 and MTech CATCAM Anna University in 2004 and a PhD from NIT Warangal from 2018. And Sir has served as a Heritage Fellow for Warsaw University, Poland, lecturer at Karunya Institute of Technology, Coimbatore, and while pursuing his PhD, he was a research scholar from NFTDC, Hyderabad, and in NIT Warangal within a I still remember he was in the record time he has completed his PhD and then he joined in NIT Warangal itself from as assistant professor and now sir is associate professor and he has supervised 8 PhD scholars, handled 3 projects worth of 32 lakhs sponsored by CSIR, DST and all, and published nearly 54 various international journals from Elsevier, Telan, Francis, Springer, Sage, ASTM, ASME, etc. And the sir is received a fellowship from NFTDC Hyderabad as for the project titled Flow Forming on Axisymmetric Thin-Walled Non-Ferrous Alloy Tubes, and he also received the Best Young Researcher Award from NIT Warangal and NIT Warangal Alumni Association. And I must really thank Davidson sir for accepting this our invitation and agreeing to be the resource person. Sir, when we were pursuing PhD, I still remember sir was my credit course supervisor. So sir taught me FEM, and then he also I was very fortunate to work with sir because we organized some of the self-sponsored FDPs during that time, and I was just assisting sir, and during which we came to several case studies, and that inspired me to take up this design of experiments to the next level. And sir has vast experience in metal forming and writing the research papers for simple basic design of experiment projects, and the scholars will talk very high about that because of the script that we perform, and that means the manuscript that the sir will edit. So that is what is very inspiration for others. And today we are very fortunate to have you here, sir. And I hope participants will also get benefited by his examples, case studies, and the simple techniques where the manuscripts will get accepted. So I now request Davidson sir to take the lead and hand over the session to Davidson sir.
Yeah. So good afternoon. Thank you, Varun, for inviting
Thank
me.
you, sir.
And also, I'd like to thank Vishnu Institute of Technology for the opportunity to interact with your participants. So, shall I share my presentation?
Yes, sir. I'm stopping my share, sir. You may now.
Okay.
Yes, the screen is visible now. Full screen.
Is it audible, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Little loud will be better, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Let me. Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Is it okay?
Much better.
Okay. Okay.
Now better, sir.
Still, if you want, I can. Still, if you want, I can take my mic nearer. Is it still we need
Yes, sir.
more?
Yes, a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, better, sir. Okay, better, sir.
Hmm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, 1 minute. Is it okay now? Is it now?
It was earlier, it was better. Now better.
Hmm? Is it okay?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So if I increase the volume now, there will be some noise.
Hmm.
That's why. Is it okay?
Hmm.
Is it okay? Audible now? Or
Now it's clear, sir.
is it okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I'd like to thank again, once again, Varun and Vishnu Institute of Technology, Sandeep, Dr. Sandeep, Dr. Padma Rao, and other faculty colleagues of VIT. So and the participants, my warm greetings. So let us start today's lecture. So to conserve internet, let me stop video. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in between also. I'll again attend to it. Okay. So,
Sure, sir.
okay. So this is the agenda for today's presentation. Before that, these are all the references from where I have taken my slides. Okay. And this is agenda. So we have few slides on introduction to DOE, and then Taguchi methods for challenges in manufacturing, like that. We have few case studies uh, from 1950s to till date. Then we have the difference between Taguchi and the traditional methods of optimization. Then an introduction about orthogonal arrays, noise factors. Then my own case studies taken from our own work based on flow forming as well as sheet metal forming. Dr. Varun, is it okay? Sound is okay, right?
Yes, sir.
Ah,
Sound
okay,
is okay.
okay, fine. Okay. And there is a small assumption that is I talked with Varun. So it is told that the introduction part of DOU is already handled by various faculty members. So it is assumed that the participants have listened to sufficient number of lectures on the concept of DOE. And again, we are in the third day and the second half. So believe there may be some 5, 6 lectures on DOE. So the mathematical concepts and other in-depth things I have conveniently uh, I'm not dealing with, and because those things I believe that you would have done it. In case if you have, I have a small write-up also. I can share with Dr. Varun later. In between in my presentation also, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So this presentation you won't have very large mathematical formulas, graphs, and other things. So I am purposely I'm skipping it. Okay. Okay. So the introduction of DOE. Okay. Basically, people normally attribute this Taguchi technique and a design of experiments, all those things normally to Taguchi, Dr. Taguchi. The reason is that he brought in a huge revolution in the manufacturing with the help of Taguchi. But the origin, it happened in the 1920s. There was a person called Fisher. He's from London, England, and he's a mathematician. And he had a few problems in his eyesight, so he was not able to get or get into a job which is so demanding in nature from the physical point. So he took up a job in agricultural lab, no, production unit basically. But this particular organization, it has a history of recording the growth prospects of different varieties of flowers and other things, and had a record of its growth history for almost 50, 60 years. So this Fisher, being a mathematician, he started studying the different varieties of agricultural produce this particular organization it made, and he came up with the concept of ANOVA. Basically, he is the founder of ANOVA and factorial designs and the basics of DOE. He is a father basically. That happened between 1918s to 1940s, and he published a lot of books. He introduced p-value actually. All the people who use Taguchi, design of experiment, everything, they compare p is equal to less than 0.05, all those things. So he introduced p, he introduced f value, he introduced ANOVA. So we can conveniently say that he is the father of DOE. Then came the industrial era in 1950s to 70, and Box and Wilson, they introduced response surfaces. And this Box, he in fact he is the son-in-law of Fisher. He is also a good mathematician and a statistician. And then came the second industrial era, so wherein after the World War, and countries, they concentrated their effort on production, profits, trade, and all those things. The war was less during this period, so the era was on industrial growth. So more importance was given to quality because there was a big competition, and there were competitors from US, UK, um, European countries. So the Japanese people, they in fact thing happened in Japan. So during this period only, this Taguchi, even though it came in 1950s around, it flourished in 1970s and 1990s. And the current DOE, basically it is all computer based. It is used in several different fields, in chemical, in HR, in industry, in manufacturing, several fields it is used. Okay, so what is DOE? Basically, it's a method of conducting a series of tests by varying the factors that govern the test in a systematic way, and observe and identify the reason for the response. Very simply, okay, it is a way of conducting an experiment by varying different input parameters and observe what is happening. Very simply said it is, but in fact, there are few more things to observe when we simply conduct an experiment. People say all the things that happen in the world, it is a type of experiment only. They say some are a very nicely designed experiment and some are very badly designed experiment. All life event also we can say like that. Okay, anything that happens in the world, they are destined to do something. Some are done well, some are not done well. Our ultimate aim is to do well. So that is what we call it a design of experiment. You design it and do well instead of doing it or leaving it to the nature, and let us say, let us happen, whatever happens, let us happen like that. And instead of saying such things, let us do it in a designed manner. We call it design of experiments. And what it can do, this design of experiments can give you the effect of from the knowledge that we gained from the study. We can also predict the response. That study that we have not done also we can predict, and we can find out the factors levels, that is the variation of the factors, what it does to the output, whether it maximizes or minimizes, like that. Several things it can do. Okay, and the strategy for this experiment, I said that it is a designed experiment. All the things, it is following a pattern. The thing that differs between the pattern and the response that we call or that we require, it is the way in which we design it. So basically we can segregate or divide this particular design into three. We call it a strategy. The first and foremost is the best guess approach. We also call it as trial and error. We try something, and if the result is up to the mark, then we stop there and we go ahead with other work. So we call it as trial and error. This trial and error, it depends on luck. Sometimes some people will get some good result, sometimes people may not get good result also. So we call it as a best guess approach. And guess also, we can intuitionally we can take a best guess, which ultimately can lead you to the output. But that all depends on the experience and the luck. The next one is one factor at a time. So the most important thing that people normally do, other than this factorial approach, is this one factor at a time approach. That is, if there are four factors, each and every factor we vary from the lower limit to the upper limit and find out the response by keeping all other factors as constant. Then the first factor we keep at constant, the second factor we change and we find out the response. Like that, we keep on changing the responses. Then we take the maximum of each of every response and we try to do it for the whole process. For A, B, C, D, let us say, within the A and B, C, and D, which is giving the best output, what is that? Best factor we take as the final process parameter. Then the next one is this factorial approach. It is, as I told you, in 1920s during Fisher and other people, they invented this thing, factorial approach. In this particular approach, these factors are varied in a sequence, in a mathematical form, in a more significant manner. It is not just like you change to 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, like that. Just like that, it is not done, but it is done in a more systematic way. This particular approach, it helps to find out how these factors interact, how they individually act, how they interact with others and act. So all these things it gives factorial approach. And this factorial approach is nothing but your all other methods like response surfaces, Stack-Ritchie methods, and all those things. So the father of this is this factorial approach only. And another important thing is all such methods, all design of experiments methods, they follow statistics principles. Okay. And all those things follows ANOVA, analysis of variance. And the prediction equation, it is obtained by regression analysis. I believe you had a lab on regression analysis. ANOVA also start. So I'll only give a small introduction about ANOVA, but I believe that it is taught. Okay. So statistical design of experiment. Design of experiments, now we are told that it is statistical design of experiments because we introduce the concept of statistics inside. So all experiments should be designed experiments. Means what we are going to do, it should follow a mathematical formula. It should be designed. The product that we design must be done with the experiment, which is also in a designed in a formal fashion. Okay. And as I was telling you, the experiments, all experiments, either they are experiments, but some are poorly designed and some are effectively designed. Our aim is to do study or do an experiment which is very effective. So this whole lecture is on this only, how to design the experiment effectively. Okay, whole lecture from first to last is the same. So this I have already told, I'll skip it. Okay, so in general, so we learn about the process. So when I deal about my case studies, I'll emphasize this point. Basically, normally people, when they design the experiment, they take the input process parameters, they vary from minimum to maximum, they measure the output and they get some results. But I always emphasize on the process. Okay, before doing design of experiment, we have to concentrate more on the process. I have 2 case studies. I will make it clear why we have to learn more about the process first before doing the design of experiments. For the participants also, I would like to reiterate from now onwards, design of experiment is good. It is so good, in fact, my case studies will explain why it is so good. But a word of caution, more than that, the process that you do is more important than the design of experiments. Okay, so you have to learn more about the process. And screen important variables, that is what we do in design of experiments. Build a mathematical model, again we do in design of experiment. Then we build a prediction equation and we optimize the result. So all these things, they're all our traditional design of experiments. Okay, so already it is taught, you have done lab. I will give more emphasis on the process. Okay, I'll give more emphasis on the process. Even design of experiment is equally important, but more than that, process is more important. Okay. So statistical significance is tested. After all these things, statistical significance is tested. We do some ANOVA, analysis of variance. Then we do some prediction model while following regression analysis. Okay. Okay, so in design of experiments, these are all the 4 things that we do. That is a conjecture, experiment, analysis, and conclusion. So conjecture is nothing but a hypothesis. that motivates experiment. So this comes under the process. Okay, so this comes under process. As I was mentioning, I give more important emphasis on process. So the conjecture, the hypothesis comes under process. This experiment analysis conclusion comes under the DOE. Okay, so in response to the conjecture that is on hand, how we are going to do the experiment, how we are going to analyze it, and we are going to conclude experiments. Okay, so let us go into the studies. Okay, so purposely I have raised the introduction part of deck of slides. As I mentioned, you already gone through at least 3 days of class. Okay, so this is a conventional production. There will be a plan, there will be a factory that people normally optimum man, optimum raw materials, optimum machine, everything they manufacture and they market. So what happened during this particular process, only it is learned that only 20% of this effect, that is the planning and for experimentation, the design, the R&D and all those things, unfortunately they say only 20%. And the actual production, the marketing and the after effects, all these things comes under almost 80% of the engineering resource. Basically, this 20% only, we have the new specifications. Actually, if there is a new product development, so people normally come with the specification and what are the things to be done, all those things, and they develop it and they deliver it. They fix a time frame and they develop. So here within this 20%, your design cycle is over. Okay, then they get it to they give it to the production shop, so they manufacture it, and there will be quality controls. So within the quality control, there may be some rejection, they may reject it, so they improve the process and they send to the marketing. So the people, they sell it, people use it, commercially product will come, people use it, then problem starts. People use it, then some fuse will go off, some leg will break, something will happen. So customer will come back, they claim insurance. In India it is very poor, but in advanced countries, in Western countries, this insurance and all those things are very strict. When Amazon, it follows the same concept. That's why if you don't like it, you can return back. Within 10 days they give and we return back. But in America, if after 6 months also, if you is not performing well, you can return back. Okay, then we have warranty issues. So we give one year warranty, and within that it breaks. So it comes back, and the design again it goes out, and they have to change it, and the whole process again it starts, right? So in the conventional thing, when we start doing all these things, when we go for your design cycle, we go through such a process. That is 20% the design, and your 80% your after design work. That is the production and the marketing. And we design these things, we segregate these things into 3 important sections. That is, the first one is called as your upstream. Okay, the upstream is in the R&D level, research and development level. The midstream is your production, and your downstream is your sales and marketing. Okay, and this particular chart, it compares your traditional design method with the Taguchi method. Okay, so the right hand side is your what is it? This particular thing is your traditional method. What is your traditional method? What we do, we design and we send it to the market, and it goes. There may be some defect and rework may require. There may be some claim and returns may be there, and people go for total quality control, quality circles, all these things. There will be a big quality quality team, and they work on it. So the most of the effect is on the downstream time. So this we call it the right hand side, we call it as a downstream time. But in Taguchi, what happens, the most of the effect is on the upstream side here. Okay, in Taguchi, most of the effect is on the upstream side. What is the most of the effect is on the upstream side? While designing itself, they take into consideration what are all the other factors other than your process conditions. Taguchi, as you know, since you already gone for 3 days of class, normally you will have your process condition and a noise factor. Am I right? Process as well as noise factor. The traditional approach, this noise factor people neglect. But in Taguchi approach, we take both the process as well as noise, so that in the downstream side, when the actual product is delivered to the customers, your claims and returns, the rework, defect, all those things will come down. So the claim that I make is, in the traditional approach, most of the effect is on the downstream side. In the Taguchi approach, most of the effect is on the upstream side. So the responsibility of an industry person or a researcher or an engineer is more in Taguchi side. Okay, Taguchi method, because he has to anticipate a lot. He has to find out what is the noise factor. Okay, what are the different process parameters that matters. So all these things he has to think in advance. Then only he can go for your what is that? Manufacturing and delivery of the items. Okay. In the downstream side, in the traditional approach, they go for a thing called plan, do, check, and act. Okay, plan, do, check, and act. In 1950s to 1980s, they were doing only this approach: plan, do, check, and act. In the 1980s, what happened? In US, they came to know that the 30% of their automobile market, it is dominated by the what is that, Japanese companies like Toyota, Nissan, Honda, all those things, and 2% by German, that is your BMW and what is that, Benz and all those things. So almost 35% of the market, it was dominated by Japanese as well as German, European car companies. So the American government thought, what is the reason? So it made a committee and made them to visit Japan. So they went to Japan and they submitted a report, and the report was titled as TQM and Taguchi methods. Okay, so the Japanese government, they allowed the US to come to their factories. So they went to the different factories in Japan, and they finally wrote a report and submitted to the US, and the report was titled TQM and Taguchi methods. So what they found in this Japanese companies, where they were concentrating more on the quality in the design stage itself, and they are relatively free when the product goes into the market. So the customer, he is very happy. Once the product is in his hand, he is getting very few quality issues. So he is again and again going for the same type of product, the product manufactured by such companies. Automatically, the product itself is doing the marketing. So the traditional plan, do, check, act was not there. What is this plan, do, check, act? Plan is a designing, do is actual manufacturing. They check, they do some quality issues, quality controls. They say 95% is okay. 5% goes to the market with quality issues, and it is returned. The customer, he won't come again to the same manufacturer. He goes to the product which is a company which manufactures with less quality controls. So the government they realized. Then immediately there was a task force. US government, it set up a task force in 1980s to improve the quality aspects of the manufacturing. So the Ford car manufacturer, Ford, so it started giving training, 1 week training, just like you undergo a training. In 1980s, Ford, they have an institute called Ford Design Institute, and they trained per year 600 of his staff members on Taguchi and other controls, and they offered 1 week training course for each people. Then Xerox, Xerox, it's a US company, and they too did same quality control training and other things. And within the 10 years, 18 to 90, even the US, they were comparatively, they are good in quality, thanks to this Taguchi as well as this quality control. So they came to know that the US government, quality is a major reason the product, whether it stands in the market or it does not stand in the market. That is the importance of this quality. So in the quality engineering, the product output performance, when it deviates from the design intention, we call it as noise factors. Okay. So I have a product, I put it into the market. I say that it will work for 8 hours, or I manufacture a battery and they say it continuously runs for 8 hours. So 6 hours it goes off. Then it deviates from the product's output performance. So this deterioration we call it as noise factor. And this noise factor can be of two types. It can be of inner noise factor and outer noise factor. When you design an experiment, when you do a problem also, you have to identify what is your inner noise factor and what is your outer noise factor. Then only your product, the output of the product will be proper. Okay. Identifying the noise factor is so important. So what could be the noise factor? It can be a weather related noise factor. It can be an atmospheric noise factor, whether is your seasons, day, night, and other things, humidity, temperature. So that can change the product specification, output specification. Your assembly and production, during that time, there can be some process variations, there can be some contamination, there can be some deterioration of values. Then in the market, when we go, when you put your product in the market, there can be some aberrations, there can be deterioration, all those things. All these things, with all these noise factors, when the product is sent to the market, the situation, the reality of the output reality will be different. In this particular case, this is the actual output specification that the company markets, but this is what actually it happens. There is significant changes. Okay. In the traditional approach, how people do this, they have a process called process control. In every traditional company which follows traditional design principles, they have a quality control department and a process control department. So they deal with the noise factors. How they deal with the noise factors mean they screen the input material, they screen the statistical process control techniques, and screen the production methods. They standardize the procedures. But all these things, it is not based on the Taguchi method. It is basically one factor at a time method. They screen or take one particular process condition, one particular material condition, raw material, whatever it is, and they change it and try to find out the optimum condition. Okay. And as I was already mentioning, these things, the maximum, even though they are maximum from their own perspective, when put together, there will be interaction effects and it won't be same. Okay. But traditionally, they are following only this method. That is, they call it as peak plus peak. Meaning, I take 4 factors. For all the 4 factors, you take the peak input condition, which gives a peak output. So they think that this peak and this peak will give you the peak condition output. They call it as peak plus peak. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Okay, so in the equipment, product, specification, everything, all these things, they try to change the input condition by following the peak to peak approach. But that is not the case. As I was mentioning, the traditional approach, when they followed, it is not giving the proper output. There is significant variation. So these are all some of the variations due to raw material assembly, transportation, all those things. So how people solved? It did not come a single day, even though Fisher, he introduced this design of experiment concepts in 1920s itself. It was never used in an industry. Why Taguchi is famous means he was the first to use this concept to solve an industrial problem. They call it as an INAX tile problem. Okay, INAX. It is a name of a company, INAX, and the case is called as tile case study. What is this tile? Basically, this INAX, they were making tiles. You know, our vitrified tiles and all those things. Now, similar to that, they were making tiles. And these tiles were ceramic materials. They were kept in a furnace, and this furnace was heated. When the furnace was heated and the tiles were kept inside, chemical reaction takes place. So the bonding strength increases and the tile is burnt, and the tiles were taken out and sent to the market. When it was sent to the market, they came to know that several tiles, it came back saying they are not as per specification. Means the thickness of the tile, it was varying actually. So the engineers, they worked on uh, the problem, what made the tiles to have a different thickness. They came to know that when the tiles are kept inside the furnace, the temperature of the furnace, it varies from 1000 to 1100. There is a variation of 100 degrees. So the variation of 100 degrees happens. The chemical reaction that happened within the ceramic, it was different, and there was a thickness variation. When this problem was given to Dr. Taguchi, he designed an experiment. That was the first, obviously, maybe in industry level experiment on design of experiments. He did not change the INX engineers. They were trying to change or no, solve the problem by putting a fan to circulate the heated air. Somewhere here they put a fan so that it circulates the air, and and the temperature will become almost 1000 or 1050 or something like that. They were trying, and they were putting additional heating sources. For example, you put a heating source here, so it becomes 1100. You put a heating source here, it becomes 1100, like that. And they separated the tiles to allow heated air to go through them homogeneously. So they were not arranging it one after another. They put it in the form of a chamber. So likewise, this INAX engineers, they were trying to solve the problem, but still they could not make it. But the Taguchi, what he said, Dr. Taguchi, he said one of the variations of one of the constituents that was added inside these tiles was lime. So what he did, he varied all the chemical compounds used in the tiles in the raw material. He varied it between some low to minimum, low to maximum. So in that way, lime is also one of the constituents in the tiles. So he added from 1 to 5% he added, and he did the experiments like that. Every almost several chemicals he added minimum, maximum, median, like that he added, and he found the output. Surprisingly, what happened, at 5% of the lime, this thickness variation was not there. But at the same time, when they measured the temperature variation is there. Even after conducting all the experiments, temperature variation, they did not go off, because this tradition method Dr. Taguchi did not follow. He did not put a fan. He did not put additional heating sources. He did not have chambers. He was only having the same setup. Only thing is, he was varying the chemical constituents of the tile raw material, and he measured the thickness. And surprisingly, he came to know that the variation problems has been solved. Okay, then they came to know. Okay, then they came to know over the years, some 50 to 60 years, whatever method that we were following, this is not the right method. The traditional method, that is one factor at a time experimental method, this is not the right method to follow. There is another method wherein you change the variations, you find out the interaction effects, the lime with water, lime with temperature, like that. Okay, and this also can give you an optimum, in fact better value than, better results than the traditional approach. So this is the origin. This is a case study which proved that by properly designing the experiment and properly varying the input process parameters and identifying the reason for the property changes, we can also design the process in a better manner than the traditional method. In this particular case, in this particular INAX method, this temperature variation is called the noise factor. I was mentioning noise, right? Noise. So this temperature variation is a noise, and the control factor is your lime. Okay, so the noise factor, temperature variation, it was there. Okay, it was a noise. It was creating problem, but we did not change it. Noise factor was there. We could not achieve a better product by varying or decreasing or increasing. We just kept it as such, but we controlled the factors which otherwise can give you an output. That is a lime. Okay, so in this particular case, we call the noise factor as the temperature variation as the noise factor, and the lime as the control factor. And with 1%, we had a lot of variations like this. Okay, we had a lot of variations like this, almost this much. With 5%, we have only this much. So the recommendation was, in all the composition, you add 5% of lime. No matter what the temperature variation is, you'll always get a nice that what is that thickness variation. So that is the first successful case study on the design of experiments. It was performed by none other than Dr. Taguchi in a company called INAX. Okay, so how Dr. Taguchi arrived at this? Basically, the function of the furnace, okay, its aim, its purpose is to give some heat energy and provide some heating source and produce some chemical bond energy. Dr. Taguchi, when he was given the problem, the output, you and I may think that the chemical bond energy is the output. I have to measure the chemical bond energy so that when the chemical bond energy is more and when it is less, the what variation it causes on the thickness. That might be the normally you and I may think, right? But Taguchi thought it differently. This chemical bond energy anyway, I am not going to measure because I cannot. It is inside the furnace and it is between the atoms. So I have very less resource to measure the chemical bond energy. But the thickness variation I can measure. Ultimately, I only want that. When I send the tile to the market, people measure only the tile dimension. Why not I measure the tile dimension? That was his thinking. So he did not measure the direct output, process output, that is chemical bond energy. The direct process output is chemical bond energy only, right? But he did not. He measured only the tile dimension, and he designed the process by varying the input parameters in such a way that this tile dimension is almost a constant. Okay, so he used at least 5 what is that factors to this. What is the first one is called as the system. Okay, the first one is called as the system. The next one is the noise factor, then your control factors, then your interaction and other things, and the final output itself. Okay, and in this particular case itself, I'll explain what is a noise factor, how to do a control factor, and how to design a system. In the lecture itself, I will explain. Okay. Okay, so there is another case. So there was an electrical motor, and it was delivering some amount of giving some amount of output. The output is it should drive a system. Okay, so we give a particular amount of energy, and that energy is converted into a rotational motion in an energy system. When that rotational motion is happening, along with that, the rotational energy is very useful energy, and along with that, there were some mechanical loss, some vibration, some heat, some coil brush, some aberration, some deterioration, like that. There were unnecessary energy also was being created. Okay, so how to use how to design a system such that the useful energy is more and the harmful energy is less. So from this particular thing, I will also explain what is signal to noise ratio also. In design of experiments, S/N ratio is one of the important factors that you take into consideration. So with this particular example, I will also explain what is signal to noise ratio. So what is the agenda? There is an electric motor, it runs and it rotates something. When it rotates something, it delivers a rotational energy to the object. At the same time, due to vibration, due to friction, all those things, unwanted energy also being created. What happens actually? So these are our input energy. The input energy is converted into mechanical rotational energy and some other types of energy. And in the other type of energy, we have the vibration and other things. But the major thing I want only is useful energy, because other than that, it unnecessarily I am spending more input, more cost, more energy, and it is going waste. So what happened? They tested with a particular motor. Say we call it as A. Okay, and an input of 10 voltage amperes was given, and they measured what is the output, useful energy. It was around 5. And they came to know the remaining things went off by heat as vibration or something, and it was 5. So the useful energy is only 5. The unused, the harmful things, it is 5. So half of the energy has gone down to the drain. Okay, so here the useful thing is called the signal, and the harmful thing, the unwanted thing which went to the drain, we call it as the noise. So the signal to noise ratio is your signal 5 by 5, it is 1. So we call it is very bad. Signal to noise ratio. Noise is so bad, and it is equally good like signal now. So it is 1. So it is bad. So same problem. Instead of taking a motor A, they took B. Okay, so the same input energy was given, 10 voltage amperes, and this particular motor was capable of delivering around 7.5 voltage amperes, and some only 2.5 voltage amperes of energy was wasted in the form of your friction, your vibration, all those things. So the signal to noise ratio is 3 now. Okay, so your signal to noise ratio significantly improved because your denominator has decreased. Am I right? So if you reduce the noise, okay, you reduce more and more noise, you get more benefit, you will get more useful energy. But how to do that? How to do that? That is a problem. In design of experiment also, how to improve your useful energy by reducing the noise, that is your agenda. In the same company, instead of using a 10 voltage amperes, another person took only 6.7 a motor with 6.7 voltage amperes. It was still giving you 5 voltage amperes. Even even your 10 voltage amperes motor A, it was also giving 5 voltage amperes, but your signal to noise ratio was 1 because it was giving a lot of noises. But in this case, it was giving only 1.74, 5 by 1.7. It is again signal to noise ratio is more. So that means we always need not you always need not give a very best input so that the output will be good. Am I right? What is your input here? Hope I am delivering my point. See, people normally say the best you give inside, the output will be good. Am I right? So when you compare this particular case, example A and example C. Example A, I'm giving more energy as input. Your output is bad. In the case C, okay, in the case C, our input is very less, but still it is able to give a nice output, and your signal to noise ratio is more. So that means the way you are able to destroy the noise, the unwanted thing, that amplifies your output. Okay, you need not always improve your increase your input energy, but when you are capable of designing a process wherein your unwanted noises are less, then also you can increase. So with the less energy input, you can get a more gain. That is what more important, right? In an industry, you should spend less and gain more, right? So that point I would like to convey here is, the conventionally people normally think that the more the good the input, if it is more, the output is more. It is not the case. It all depends on how you manage your resources. Okay, how you manage your resources. People normally send your kids to Chaitanya, this place, that place, like that. They think that, oh, you are if you give a very better education, and obviously your kid will come back very successfully, like that. I also have an alternate hypothesis. You also can reduce the unwanted noises, harmful noises. You reduce your TV or something. You reduce your some screen time. You don't give the cell phone to them for playing games and other things. Then also you can increase your output. That is my claim, right? So the hypothesis is that you need not always increase your energy to get a good output. In fact, the better hypothesis is you design the process in such a way that your unwanted harmful effects, if it is less, then also you can increase your efficiency. Okay, so that is given in this graph. Okay, so the same motor example, it is running. So any motor, it takes minimum some 2 voltage amperes during the starting process, because it has to overcome the friction, initial friction. So that much of energy it takes, and it will go as a loss. Okay, it will go as a loss. So I give further energy, it runs, and it gives some useful work here. Okay, it gives some useful work here. And if the energy goes beyond this particular limit, transformation limit, and this will become waste. Okay, And in a particular case, people found that from 2 to 12, it is giving some optimum results. Okay, 2 to 12, it gives some optimum results. And after giving more than this 12, the more energy is spent on your friction, your vibration, all those things. So harmful energy, it increases again. Okay, harmful energy, it increases again. The useful work is optimum between 2 to 12. Afterward, it decreases. So this is my claim. So whenever you do an experiment, whenever you design something, and you would like to uh, send a hypothesis or send a result to the outside world, you should be more, aware of that. Always you improve your internal, your process parameters the traditional way. The best of the input parameters, the best of 5 input parameters always will be best. That is a peak to peak plus peak. That is wrong. Number 2, always you increase the input parameters proportionally, your output will be good. That is wrong. What is actually the fact? The fact is there is a range over which you will get some good result, and there is a range wherein you'll get unwanted energy. So your main domain while doing an experiment is to identify which input parameter is important, what is the range of the input parameter, and what is the noise factor. Noise factor, finding a noise factor is so difficult actually. I'm just telling that it is noise factor, but it is so difficult. Whenever you do a design of experiment study, the software itself will give you a noise factor. But when you do a product development, identifying a noise factor is so important, such that your product, now if you identify more amount of noise factors, then the success story of your product will be so good. Okay, so these 3 things, that is what is that, mm, identifying a range, identifying a proper process parameter, and identifying um, the loss or the noise. All these things, they contribute to the final output. Okay, so with this introduction, I will let me compare the traditional, the Taguchi optimization method. I'll go fast because I have 2 case studies to cover. So in the traditional method, we always take one factor at a time. We go for this peak plus peak concept. We always take the highest of the input parameter, which gives you the output. If I say 3 process parameter, individually I vary and find out the best input A, best input of B, and best input of C. And I assume that the best of A, best of B, and best of C will always give you a best result. But that is wrong. This is the traditional way, and the traditional way has, what is that? It has failed actually. In 1950, this has been proved wrong also by Dr. Taguchi with a tile experiment. And nowadays also, most of the companies, they have started going for this designed experiment. And what actually happens in Taguchi? In Taguchi, what happens? They do the design stage itself. They segregate the process parameters. They find out the noise. They find out the range, and they finalize. They find out the signal to noise ratio, and they finalize the input parameter, and then they go for production stage, and then they go for marketing. So more effort is given on your design stage itself. Okay, and this is a small case, but I'll skip it because I have to I have 2 more cases to make. So in the traditional way, they do like this: each parameter they do, and they give an output, and gives a lot of quality. What is that? Variations. So when the quality variations go, they put some amount of the money for the claims and warranties. Okay, there will be a lot of property variations. Because of that, claims and warranties will be more, and that gives operational cost, that increase operational cost also. But in the Taguchi method, they find out input process parameter ranges, and they go. So because of that, the unnecessary claims and warranties will be less. So the profit margin also will be better, and the credibility of the company will also be more. Okay, so this I will skip. I'll go for the orthogonal arrays. So when it comes, we have now come to that. The traditional method is not serving the purpose. The Taguchi designed experiment is giving better outputs. Now, how to do it? Okay, the better way to do it is by a method called orthogonal arrays. Okay, orthogonal arrays. To come to the orthogonal arrays, we have a small simple experiment. We have 2 factors, A and B. The A and B, the A, there are 2 levels. Okay, 3 and 5%. We call from factor A and factor B, and this factor A is having two levels. Levels means in one I do the experiment with 3%, in another I do the experiment with 5%. In this particular case, it is an adhesive experiment. They apply an additive and they put the adhesive and they find out the strength. That is the experiment. Okay, so this is a main material. Let us say copper with 5%, they add some additive like that. Main material is either 3% or 5%. The adhesive may be 0.4% or 0.8%. So this 3% is called as the lower level of factor A. Okay, lower level of factor A, and this 5% is called as upper level of factor B. Similarly, your additive 0.4 is called as lower level of factor A, factor B, and this is called as upper level of factor B. Why we are doing this? Because we are varying these things in a proper proportion and trying to find out which one gives you good results. Okay, right. Then we actually have done the experiment now, and we have found the strength, and the strength is like this. When I have taken the main material 3% and I have taken an additive of 0.4, this is my strength. Okay, when I have taken a main material 3% and I have taken an additive of 0.8, this is my strength. Okay, similarly, the 5% I have taken and 4%, this is my result, and this is 5% and 0.8, this is my result. That means if I want to get this amount of strength, I should have taken 5% of the base metal. Okay, then I should have used 0.8% of your additive. Okay, your additive. So that will give a strength of this much. So very simple. We have done some 4 experiments and we have measured the strength. Now, how to go about further? What I have to do, I have to find out what influence this particular A1 is having on the final strength. Okay, what is A1? The factor A kept at the lower level. A1 is factor A kept at lower level. Okay, A2 is factor A kept at higher level. So first I want to know what is this factor A when I'm keeping it at level 1. So level 1, I have done 2 experiments. That is, I'll clear everything. Okay, so the factor, this A1 at lower level, I have done an experiment with 0.4 B1 and I also done an experiment with 0.8. So these are all my 2 results. So when I use my base metal only 3%, then the strength that I will get will be this 4 and 6. Okay, 4 and 6. So this is nothing but 10. So I have A at level 1, 10 is my result. So at level 2, I take factor A, I do the experiment only keeping at the higher level. I always take 5% of the base metal and I do for 0.4 and I do for 0.8 also. This is my result. Okay, so factor A at the higher level, level 2. So this is my answer, 8 and 12. Okay, so this is 20. 8 plus 2, it is 20. Similarly, factor B, when it is kept at level 1. So level 1, so B1, so I have done, I'll clear again. So factor B, level 1 is this particular answer and this particular answer. Am I right? So level 1 or B1, I have done for 3% of A1. Level 1 at B1, 5% of A2 I have done. So 4 plus 8, it is 12. Similarly, 6 plus 12 is 12. So what is this particular chart gives? It gives the sum and the average. Okay, so this is the sum. So the effective bond strength I can get for factor A and B when they are kept at the lower level and at the higher level. That is the level property when you draw a graph. And then what is the average? Okay, we have done only twice, so just take the average by 2 put. So the average effect is, if I have done 3, then by 3, by 4, by 4 like that. We have done only 2, so we just take only 2. So this is the average effect. Okay, so what we have done, we have basically we have taken a small experiment. We have taken a base metal. We have varied between a lower and the upper, and we have added an additive. The additive also we have taken 2, a lower and upper, and we have found the effect of lower level and upper level of A as well as B. We have found the sum as well as average. Okay, so this is what we have done. And now with that result, I'm drawing a graph. Okay, I'm drawing in all FA paper, you will see such graphs. So what I have done, I have taken the sum. Okay, so and I have found the average, and this particular graph is called as average effects graph. Okay, it is called as average effects graph. What is this average effects graph? Say for example, I have taken A1, and this A1 at level A1 is level 1, A is a factor, N is level 1. At level 1, it is the strength that we got is 5. So you put it 5 here. When A1 is increased from level 1 to level 2, okay, it increase from lower level to higher level, the strength increased and it is 10. So this is 10. So you draw a graph. So this is a linear graph. If you have 3 or 4 levels, then you may get also you get a non-linear graph like this. But as of now, we have taken only 2, so we have got a linear graph. So what is the inference? You take a factor A and you increase from lower to higher, the strength increases. So this is the strength, the adhesive strength, it increases. That is the inference. Okay. Similarly, you take the factor B. Okay. The factor B also having 2 levels. Okay. So this particular level is the experiment that was conducted by keeping the factor B at the lower level. This is the one that is conducted by keeping the by doing the experiment by conducting the experiment by keeping the B level at higher level. So you increase the additive from B1 to B2, your adhesive strength increases like this. Okay, so from 6 to 9. So this is 6 and this is 9. Okay, so when you do a design of experiments, you vary the input parameters in a range, you mix the experiment and you find out the variation, you find the average effect, and the average effect you put it in the diagram. Okay, diagram. Okay, so what else? Then you find when you analyze. Okay, for analyzing, again people normally do a thing called ANOVA, analysis of variance. So that as I told you, I'm not going into all the mathematics. If you want, I can share with you a document. Okay, already you have that. So the analysis stage, you put all the results and put a table and find out what has happened. If I increase A, what has happened? If I increase B, what has happened? If I increase A2, what has happened? Like that. And also from these 4 experiments, simple 4 experiment also, I can find out an optimum level. Okay, I can also find an optimum. How to find the optimum? So for doing that, let us again go and draw a small chart. What chart I do? Basically what I have done. So this is my factors. Okay, so in the factor A and B, we have A and B. So if I take A, what is the average? If I have done the experiment, what is the average? Okay, if I have done the experiment, what is the average? Actually, I'll go back. I didn't mention about this particular thing. I'll go back. The 7.5 is the average actually. Okay. See this 7.5. This 1.5 is the average, grand average. If all the 4 type of experiment if you have done and find out the output strength and divide by 4, what you will get is you will get 7.5. 10 plus 1 19, 19 plus 1 5 25, and 30 by 4 is 7.5. So the whole strength that we get is 30 and by 4 is average. Now we are trying to find out with the whole average, what is the effect on A, what is the effect on A2, what is the effect on B1, what is the effect on B2. That is what we are trying to find out. Okay, so for that only we are going to draw a small graph. Okay, so the graph is this. This is my average 7.5. You remember that when A is kept at A1, the answer was 5. Am I right? 5. So the average is 7.5. Every process parameter when I took it is 7.5. The influence of A is it decreases the output by minus 2.5. You do an experiment by keeping A1, then your output will be reduced by minus 2.5. That is the inference. Okay. Then you increase this A1 to A2. You remember that the answer was 10. Okay. And it is increasing the output by a point of 2.5 in the positive x direction. So plus 2.5. So that is what we are writing here. Basically, what it is, yeah, this is your average. If A1 is at lower level, it decreases output by minus 2.5. If A2 is at highest, it increases output by 2.5. Similarly, B1, if it is 0.4, it is decreasing. And if it is 0.8 or something, I forgot the level, it increases output by plus 1.5. So with this particular A1, B1, all those things, we can find out the optimum values. What is the optimum value? The mean of A1, B1. You do the experiment by keeping the lower level of A1 and the lower level of B2. The output will be this. That is mean plus A1 plus EB1. Mean is the number of output by 4. It was 30 by 4. Okay, so it is 7.5. And A1 just now we found it is minus 2.5, here minus 2.5, and B1 is minus 1.5. Okay, B1 is minus 1.5. So if you do an experiment by keeping everything at the level, lower level, your average strength, the strength will be only 3.5. Okay, it will be only 3.5. So similarly, we can also find for what is that? For other process conditions also, like this. Okay, so I have just done for all, for A1, A2, all those things, and we have found. So this particular 3.5 just now we calculated. Am I right? This 3.5 using this formula, m plus A1 plus B1 is equal to 7.5 minus 2.5 minus 1.5, it is 3.5. Similarly, you can find out for A1, B1 conditions, your A2, B1 conditions, like that. For all the conditions we can find out, and we can find out which one will give you your maximum output. So this is your estimated predicted result, and this is your experiment. By finding the averages, we can predict which one will be a nice combination. As per this is the nice combination, right? It is giving the highest possibility. This is your experiment, but this is the highest possibility among your averages. So this prediction is obtained by your the predictor value minus the experimental value, and this is the error. This error is nothing but this 0.5 minus 0.5, 0.5, all those things. Okay, so this is a small calculation. I didn't want to put more mathematics, but still I felt to introduce a subject, this minimum level it is required, so I just introduced this also. Okay. Okay. Okay, now I said that you take a process parameter, you form a range, and within the range you vary and find out the output parameter, like that I told. Now how to form this input? Can I simply take, or is there a formula? That is nothing but your orthogonal array. Okay, so orthogonal array. So these orthogonal arrays were not described by Taguchi. It was in 1920s by Fisher only. Okay, so this is the way with which you have the minimum or the maximum and arrange in a table. We call it as an orthogonal array. So the orthogonal array are many. It can be 1 1 2 1 1 1 2 2 1, like that, or you can exchange this. You can have this one you can put it here, and this 2 you can put it here, like this 1 1 1 2 2 1 and 2 2, like that. This is also an orthogonal array. Okay. I have some problem with my Zoom. That is, I missed eraser.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. So orthogonal arrays are many, but there is only one formula. Orthogonal arrays can be many. You may know L8, L27, L36, L20, like that. We know several orthogonal arrays, but there is only one formula for orthogonality. What is the formula? These orthogonal arrays should ensure that all factor levels are fairly treated. What is fairly treated? Say in running races, it is a 50-meter race. All the person will be made to stand on a single line. When the signal is given, it will be ensured that some person is not starting his race before the gunshot or the signal for running. Am I right? Because everybody should be given a fair chance to finish the race. So what is the fair chance in the orthogonal array? Let us say, see this one, this one, they represent lower levels, okay, of a factor, and these two are higher levels. In any matrix you take, this lower level and top level, it will be equally number. Let us check. Okay, let us check. It will be equally number. See, for example, so let us say this 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 appears, see here, 1 appears twice, 2 appears twice. Here 1 appears twice, 2 appears twice. For factor 3 also 1 appears twice, 2 appears twice. So A is conducted in a lower level matrix twice and higher level matrix twice. It is given equal opportunity to represent itself. So any matrix you take, you will see this actually. It will get equal opportunity. Okay. I'll show a few more also. Everywhere you check, it will have equal opportunity. I have put only 4 because I have taken a small experiment. You can see any paper, and this will be represented only in equal proportions. Now the most important thing, that is called noise factors. So what is a noise factor? What happened in 1988, when the Olympics was conducted in Japan, the Olympic torch, you know that the Olympic torch will go to all the continents and there will be a run, and then it will be coming to the Olympic venue and it will be lit, and they'll ensure that it never extinguishes actually. What happens when the run is there, when this run was going in a cold climate, it went off almost 8-9 times. And people are very embarrassed actually. And the company said that they have designed it properly only. They showed all their designs, and they blamed the people who were the Olympic committee was blaming only the runners, saying that they are not keeping it properly, somehow they are extinguishing. Finally, they came to know that the torch is getting extinguished because when the runner is running at a particular angle, when the flame is coming, it is heating the exit portion of the flame of the torch, and it is heating the air there, and it is restricting the flow. When that is restricting the flow, enough amount of propane is not coming out, like that they came to know that. So, and it was this torch problem was sent back to the company that manufactures it, and they solved the problem by putting another aluminum layer inside the torch, so that an even amount of temperature, even at different angles also was available. And thereafter, this extinguishing problem was not faced. And in the Olympic torch also, finally, when it went off without a hinge. The thing is, the company, they followed all design procedures, everything was good, but they failed to recognize the noise factor. Why is the noise factor here? Japan was very cold. It is a winter Olympics. It was very cold. At that condition, that the conditions were different, and they failed to take into consideration this noise factor, and it ultimately failed. So noise factor is so important. Whenever you do an experiment, whenever you design a product, the success of the your design, it largely depends on the noise factor also. So what is a noise factor? Okay, so this is the Olympic this thing. I will skip it. I'm running late, so I'll skip. Okay, I'll skip this also. I'll skip this also. Okay. See, how to take a noise factor. Basically, these noise factors are very difficult to introduce into a design because noise factor will be plenty. Okay, so the idea Taguchi and other people they give is, you do an experiment. Say, for example, you have this many number of noises. There is a noise in the raw material in the form of a variation in the property. There is a noise in the form of surface finishing, conditioning, tooling, assembly, like that. There are different noises. Mind you, these are all not process parameters. This is noise parameter. Okay. So what Taguchi says is, you take all the available noise factor that you feel that it is available. You keep these noise factors at the lower and the higher. Okay. And it lists all the noise factor. For all the noise factor at the lower level, you do an experiment and you do a combined noise factor, N1. At the extreme position, you list all the noise factor and do an experiment and find out a combined noise factor. and you do this as you put this in the this compound noise factor in your design, because if you put all these noise factor also into your L4 in your matrix, the matrix will be so large and it will be extremely difficult to run the experiment. Am I right? So what Taguchi and others they recommend is you put the noise, identifying the noise itself is a big target actually, but somehow you identify the noise and you put on the lower and the higher, the positive, minus and the positive. So you do an experiment, one experiment by keeping all the minuses, material properties, surface finish, assembly, all those things on the minus, that is lower condition, and try to find out the noise N1. Then put everything on the higher level and try to point the noise N2. Then you use this N1 and N2 in your what is that in your matrix orthogonal array. So that is a recommendation for noise. Okay, so that is also I thought of telling. Okay, so with this the introduction part about the Taguchi is completed. Okay, so I started with how normally traditionally people use, that is peak plus peak is peak, that method. How that was proved wrong, that I explained. Okay, then I explained the first case study on Taguchi by Dr. Taguchi in a INAX style experiment, wherein even though the noise factor, that is a temperature variation, remained same, by properly varying the control factors, the problem was solved. Okay, now then I explained what is the control factor, how to do it, how to put the variations. I said lower and higher, form factor A, lower and higher, additive, lower and higher. Then is it simply just like that? Can I vary? No. So there is an orthogonal array. So I put the orthogonal array. Then I told you how to find out the average effects. Then I told you how to draw the average effect graphs. Then I told you how to write a small prediction equation, and using that prediction equation, how to find out which method will give you good method. And ultimately, finally, apart from process parameter, there is also a noise. So how to take into consideration your noise factor also I have explained. Okay, so with this, my small introduction about your Taguchi and your traditional method is over. So in the Taguchi method, we do an experiment by following arrays, okay, orthogonal arrays, L4 array, L8 arrays, L9 arrays, L27 arrays, like that. It is a mathematically defined arrays are available. You take the lower and the higher level. It can be 2 levels, 3 levels, 5 levels. That depends on your flexibility. And you vary and find the output, draw the graphs, find the average, and find the prediction equation. Okay, so with this, I will take you to a small case study. 2 case studies I'm planning. I don't know whether I'll be able to finish it. Let me try. Okay, so research opportunities in manufacturing, yeah, DOE perspective. Okay, so this is one paper I published on part of my PhD work. Actually, I worked on an area called flow forming. I worked in NFTTC in Hyderabad, and I'll explain what I did. So flow forming, it is like there will be a slug. Okay, a tubular slug will be there. So in the tubular slug, there will be rollers. So this roller will be pressed against, this also will be rotating actually. Okay, so this will be rotated. When that is rotated, these rollers will be having a profile like this. So it will be pressed against this slug, and it will be plastically, the metal will be deformed. Once the plastically it is deformed, this will become a larger tube. Yes, the big tube becomes a larger thin-walled tube. So that is a problem statement. I have to make a larger thin-walled tube. That is a problem statement. Okay. So 1 minute. So this is a machine available in NFTTC. So this is the one I was telling actually. So this will be kept here, okay, and this machine will have rollers. It will be here, okay, and this roller will press against. This is a mandrel. It will rotate. So when it rotates, the plastic deformation of this happens, and you will get a long tube like this. So I changed I thought of using design of experiments for my problem. So I said the rollers will plunge into my preform by 1 mm sometimes, and 1.5 mm sometimes, and 2 mm. So this is called as lower level, higher level. This is the levels I was mentioning previously: lower, medium, higher levels. Then the mandrel, I said it was rotating now, so that is called speed. So I varied different speeds, 200, 250 levels. So feed 50, 75, and 100. So I rotated. Okay, then I found out the deformation undergone by the preforms. Deformation is nothing but how long the tube I was able to manufacture, that I measured. So this is my input process parameters. The length of the tube, that is my output parameter. Okay, so the length of my tube, that is my output process parameter. This is a problem statement. So I changed it. So I used L9 array. Okay, I used an L9 array. So if you refer any standard, if you have not used Taguchi before, you can refer a standard book. The L9 array will be like this. The only design consideration I have to use is the you have to give equal opportunity, I told. Okay, so this is my depth. I'm plunging my roller into my workpiece. I'm doing by experiment by 3 times by keeping the depth at lower level, at medium level 3 times, at higher level 3 times. So I'm giving equal opportunity for the DC to participate 3 times. I'm varying with same amount. Okay, so similarly, you count this 1, it will come 3 times. If you count this 2, it will come 3 times, like that. Okay, so I have to perform the experiment by following the standard design of experiments L9 table array. So as per that, this is my first experiment. In my first experiment, I do all my experiments by keeping all my process parameters at its lower level. Okay, it is lower level. In my second experiment, I keep DC at lower and S and F at medium. Similarly, 9 experiments I will have to do by following. So with this 3, 3, 2 means this DC should be at this higher level, and S should be at speed, be at higher level, and 2 should be at the medium level. So I do the experiment. After doing the experiment, I measure the percentage deformation. Okay, I just put it here. So I followed a method called average of results method. And what does it mean? So as I was explaining in my previous case study, I have just put the results here, and I have found the effect of DC when it is kept at lower level. Okay, so this is like this. DC when I keep at lower level, DC when I keep at lower level, 3 is the deformation. DC when I keep at average, this is average. Okay, so likewise, using the formula that I explained just while ago, I have calculated for all L1, L2, L3. Okay, then with this L1, L1, L3, I can also draw a graph. If I vary this DC from L1 to L2, what happens? From L2 to L3, what happens? So L2, L1, what happens? This difference I have plotted. Okay, so how I got this DC, right? 3 how I got the percentage deformation when it kept at level 1, this 2 and 3 at level 1 by 3. So the amount I got is 3. So that I have got, like this I have calculated. So once it is done, I have to draw a graph. Am I right? So this graph is obtained for comparing what happened when I increase the process parameters. Okay, so what happens? I have drawn the graph. So from the graph, this is called as the level effects graph. So if I vary the depth of cut from 1 to 2, what happens? From 2 to 3, what happens? From the figure itself, I can come to know what will happen to the output. I can also find out its what is that? It's ANOVA, analysis of variance. I'll give a table with Dr. Varun. You can take it from him, how I calculated. And I can find its significance. What is the percentage contribution of this DC? It is 92%. What is the percentage contribution of S? What's the percentage contribution of F? So all these things I can calculate using analysis of variance. I can also calculate the optimum level, and I can give a recommendation that you do this, you will get an optimum, very high deformation. So that is the very our output I gave, and I published with the JMPT. JMPT is a very famous journal in manufacturing. It is 4.17. It may be more now also. So my question is it very simple? Okay, I have used Taguchi. What I did 9 experiment. Okay, I varied depth, I varied speed, I varied feed. Only 9 experiment. Okay, and I have very simple calculation. Am I right? Very simple calculation. We can also use software. Hand calculation also we can do very simple. I have plotted a graph. I have put it in a table, ANOVA table. I discussed something. I got a 4.17 impact factor journal. So you may think that oh, this fellow has done very simple 9 experiment. He has got a 4.1% paper like that. My question is research in manufacturing. Is it that easy? Okay, this is experimental setup. Very simple, right? Very simple. The thing is, this particular flow forming, basically it is meant for this type of what is that, missile outer bodies, centrifuge tubes in atomic power plants, for measuring for doing atomic bombs, for making centrifugal tubes. All those things people normally use. Okay, and mind you, when atomic bomb was blasted in India, this technology was banned in India by the US. Germany was supplying the flow forming machine, and it was banned. So when then what is it that easy? Then can I just make a very thin wall tube that easily? Can I make a centrifugal tube that easily? Then why people struggle? Why they buy machine from abroad? That question will come. Am I right? That question normally will come. So here, our Kim Jong-un, he is standing near a flow forming machine. As I told you, India itself, when we blasted our first atomic bomb, it was banned. Think about North Korea. How difficult for him to get a flow forming machine. But so that person has come to visit this flow forming machine. The significance of this process. Am I right? The significance of this machine and the significance of the process. So, but here I am telling that 9 experiment I did. I measured the deformation. I changed the head, the depth, feed, speed, and I have published a paper. And very easily I'm telling. But is it that easy? But what happened? I also published another paper, an experimental study on the quality of flow form tube. What happens? Normally, whenever you do an experiment, if it fails, so you'll be very sorrow. Am I right? And you will feel that you have lost something. Your whole life is darkened. All right. So I also did my flow forming, and I ended up with my flow form tubes like this. This tube is having a lot of waviness. Okay, it is having a lot of waviness. Some of this is called fish scale. Some of my tubes, you have a scale. The fins, likewise, the metal started coming out like a fish scale. Somewhere it cracked. Okay, somewhere it cracked. Somewhere again it came some fish scale. It came out. It cracked from the top. It cracked from the middle. Everything it happened. The tube was not coming. Somewhere tube itself was not coming. Initially, tube did not come at all. I struggled for 1 year. Then only tube came. After 1 year, when tube came, all these things happened. So what you will do? Some weak-hearted person, he will run away from the place. Am I right? But what I did, I published a paper. What I did, an experimental study on the quality of flow form tube, like that, I wrote a paper. The discussion I would like to bring here is, Taguchi, it has simplified your problem. I agree with you. Okay, Taguchi has signified, what way it has simplified? With the 9 experiment, you are getting meaningful conclusions. But to do each and every 9 experiment, to get a deformation, I struggled for 1 year. I developed the process. What should be the angle of the roller? What should be the annealing temperature? What should be the solutionizing temperature? What should be the thickness? What should be the speed? What should be the feed? On what rate actual deformation happens? What condition fish scale comes? At what condition there is a crack? All these things I did for 1 year. After struggling for 1 year, then I had a control over the process. Then I was able to find out more insights into the process. So my first and foremost conclusion from this is Taguchi is a very good method actually. Okay, I have given lot of case studies from different companies, from Toyota, from Dr. Taguchi, from US, several cases. It has improved the quality to a larger extent, but at the same time, first of all, when you do a PhD work or something, your first focus should be on the process. You develop the process, you identify what it is, you find out the physics of the problem, in what way it works, then you use your design of experiment, then you will get a lot of meaningful conclusions from it. You can also identify some nice factors inside, some quality factors inside, and you can give a good output. Okay, so that's why in the starting of the lecture itself I was mentioning that the first and foremost thing is your process. Okay, so I have another case also, that also I'll rush through very quickly. I have another 20 minutes time. So the another case is on formability studies on differential heater Taylor welded blank. This one I like more this particular topic. Nowadays I'm not working on sheet metals. I'm fully working on bulk metals only. But this particular topic is so nice to me. It is close to my heart. Basically, you know what is a Taylor welded blank? Okay, so Taylor welded blank, it is like Taylor, what he does, he stitches our cloth by cutting our cloth into different dimensions and shapes. Then he stitches and makes a shirt. So similarly, in automobile also, in automobile and several places also, the metals will be cut into different sizes, thickness, strength, and all those things, and they weld it, and they form it, and they use it. The reason is, see, a metal need not be very strong in all the places. For example, there is a door, and the door need not be strong everywhere. It is strong only, it is closer to the frame. If it is strong, that is enough. Inside is only a cover. It should cover the car so that it won't look ugly. It won't reveal what is inside. Am I right? So I need not have a very strong titanium throughout the door, but instead I can use a very strong titanium outside and a very less weight aluminum on the other places. So such thing, if I want, normally I go for Taylor welded blanks. Okay, so Taylor welded blanks are blanks that are stitched with plates of various thicknesses, various shapes, like that. The problem we have taken is, I want a material which should be stronger at some places and weaker at some places. But when I form it into a door or something, it should resemble like a door. Okay, it should not give uneven deformation. That is the what is that? That is the goal. Okay, the example is, let us say you cook rice. You know something in rice, if it is a aged rice, it behaves in a different way, and if it is a new rice, it behaves in a different way. Aged rice, when it is cooked, it optimally cooks. If a new rice, if you cook, it becomes so very, very weak, and it becomes overcooked or something like that. So people normally prefer a aged rice. What I am telling you is, no matter whether it's a aged rice or a new rice, when I put it in my cooker, it cooks evenly. Will you agree with me? Can it happen? Normal circumstances, it does not, it won't happen actually. Normal circumstances, it won't happen. But I can design a process wherein it happens. That is what my problem now. I am going to take very strong metal. I'm also going to take a very weak, a very nicely formable metal. But when I form it, it should form evenly. Okay, that is a what is that? What is a condition I have kept. So what I have done is, I have taken two metals, AA2014 and AA6061. This AA6061 is aluminum alloy, which is used in all partitions, office partitions, all those things. It is a very widely used aluminum alloy. Everywhere it is available. It is highly formable, and you can bend it, you can stretch it, anything you want, you can do it. AA2014, it is an automobile and aerospace alloy. It is a very strong metal. Its elongation is only 8 to 10%. Whereas in 6061, it varies from 10 to 18 to 26 also. What I'm telling is, I'm going to build this 2014 and 6061, and I'm going to form object wherein the formability is same, it stretches equally. 6% and 26% stretches equally. It may not be. In normal circumstances, it won't be. Am I right? But we designed a process actually. Okay. So the process I called it as differential heat treatment. Differential heat treatment. What is a differential heat treatment? What I said was the 6061 don't do any heat treatment process. You keep as such. This 2014, you go through a process called solutionizing. In alloy, there is a concept called solutionizing. The alloy will have a lot of constituents. You heat it to a certain temperature, all the alloying constituents will go into the matrix. At that condition, you drop it inside water or something and don't allow this particular alloying constituent to come out, then it looks like a single phase metal. A single phase metal will be very ductile, metallurgically, it will be ductile. So what I said, 6060 is an alloy, it is having a ductility of around 20%. 2014 is having very less ductility. On 2014, you do solution treatment. Then on the solutionized treatment metal, you join with 6061 into a Taylor-Belted blend and form it so that 2014 and 6061 will have equal deformation. That is the idea. But this 2014 at solutionized state, the elongation was very large, 30% or something. Again, there is a problem. Aluminum is having 6061 is having around 20. 2014 is having 28%. So it is again having property variations. So how to control? So in metallurgy, you know that there is another concept called aging. The solutionized metal, when it is moderately heated, it ages. What is aging actually? All the precipitates that went into the matrix will come out. We call it as precipitates. When this precipitate comes out, it blocks the deformation. That is nothing but the metal is stronger. So this 2014, there is another beauty. This aging can be two types, artificial aging and natural aging. This 2014, it's a natural aging material, means this solutionized sample 2014, you keep in the atmosphere, slowly in atmospheric temperature itself, it comes out. Whereas in artificial aging, you have to keep it in a furnace at a controlled temperature so that you have to precipitate the metal artificially. This 2014, since being naturally aged, we came to know that at 3 days, after 3 days, solutionized, keep it in the normal room temperature. After 3 days, the strength of 2014 and 6061 both are same. So the idea is you do 2014, you solutionize. With 6061, you weld it using friction stir welding. Then you form it. Then you form it, both will have same deformation. That means your car bonnet or door, whatever it is, you do it, it will come almost like a same single strength metal. That is a hypothesis we proposed, and we did it. Okay, so we did friction stir welding. We heated to different differential heat treatments we gave. Along with that, other FSW process parameters like print changing, all those things also we did. Then we did the experiments. Okay, we formed the samples. We subjected to all metallurgical tests, and we did formability test. Okay, what is formability test? Actually, basically, in a sample, we do a lot of small circles. Then we formed it. And after forming it, we measure the dimension of the circle. From that, we'll come to know that strain undergone by the metal. So when we form it, triaxial stresses will act. Some will be tensile, some will be compression, some will be shear. So all these things we measure. Then we draw in a graph. So as I was mentioning, the 6061 is having around 22% elongation, 2014 around 12% elongation. And at the same time, the hypothesis is this: you solutionize an age. At the same time, I used a L-line orthogonal array. We don't want to do large amount of experiments because this heat treatment process, it is done on a 3 mm size sample. 3 mm size sample, you heat at 500 degrees centigrade and drop in water. What happens? It bends. Am I right? So my scholar, when he did it, he could not get a proper sample. All the sample, it bent, it failed, it cracked. So he went to Hyderabad, he went to industrial setups, heat treatment processes, wherein they keep as a bulk, they heat in an oil bath actually, 530 degrees centigrade, and immediately they drop in water or something using sophisticated methods. So since he went to Hyderabad and this FSW also he did in Hyderabad, he was spending a lot actually. So he was going to Hyderabad and other things. So we didn't want to do a large amount of experiments. So we want to do very less number of experiments. At the same time, we have to prove that our hypothesis works. So we again followed a L9 orthogonal array. So we changed rotational speed, welding speed, and tool tilt angle. FSW, you know, there is a tool and it rotates and it plasticizes the metal and by which it welds. That I did not explain, I believe. So this is what we planned L9 arrays. Then we did L9 array and we did the formability test. And this is the result we got. So this is the one without heat treatment. That is 6061 and 2014 without heat treatment, it cracked here. Because the elongation of this is 22%. The elongation of this is only 12%. So this elongates so nicely, but this they won't elongate at all. So this, because of that, that results in a crack. So this one is a heat treated, that is, this is solution treated and aged. This is a virgin metal, that is non-solution heat treated. Then it was put it in the die here, put it in the die here using the formability dies, and the LDH, limiting dome height, was measured. What is this LDH? You keep the sample like this, there will be a pin like this, and we deform this particular sheet because that the sheet bends like this. So the maximum height it reaches before failure, we call it as limiting dome height. Okay, LDH. The sheet will be pressed downwards. So it keeps on, goes down. At the limiting point, it cracks. Till the point it cracks, we measure. So that is called as LDH. So we measured the LDH of non-heat treated as heat treated for the 9 experiments also, L9 experiments also. Okay. And we found that the treatment that we have proposed, the hypothesis that we have proposed, has given results. Everywhere on the heat treatment, the LDH is more, means it has deformed more. And the crack has happened, it has not happened at the joint, but it has happened on the soft side. Okay, see this beautiful observation we came to, and we did the L9 array also. The most beautiful thing you will appreciate what happened is, we did not stop here. We measured the load for the non-heat treated only very less amount of load it took. The heat treated more amount of load it took, means the stress strain curve was more, so it was elongated more. That is the conclusion. And as I was telling, you find the minimum level, what is the effect, maximum level, what is the effect, draw the graph. Okay, factors effect graph, and you measure all those things, you think. And the most important thing that I would like to show to you, that is the last slide I have for you. This is the L9 array. After drawing all the Taguchi based thing, what we did was this graph. Okay, so we did heat treatment, we followed L9 array, we measured, we put all the average effects, everything. It gave us lot of insights. All this Taguchi based work we did, drawing graph, finding the influence, what is the major factor, what is the range we have to use. All these things L9 array gave. But the most important factor it gave is what we did. We also studied the macro structure. Okay, we also studied the macro structure. And this side is a non-heat treated side, and this is a heat treated side. Okay. Now see here, for example, you see this particular sample. Okay, so this is 6061. That is a soft metal. This is a very hard metal. Now when the welding is done, it stirs the metal and puts some of the metal on the left hand to the right hand side, and some of the metal from right hand side to the left hand side. Friction stir welding, that is a concept. Okay, now what happens, since it is not heat treated, the soft metal has been plasticized. So some of the metal has gone inside the part B, this area, the light color tone. Okay, but since this side is a very hard metal, that metal has not come to this side. To get a good mechanical strength, this from A to B, B to A, metal should mix very homogeneously. Then only you will have a better mechanical strength. Okay, the mechanical strength, if it is not mixing, we won't get Obviously, when the last graph I showed you, all non-heat treated thing was having very less strength only. The reason is because of these metallurgical factors that happened. But when it comes to the right hand side, okay, what happens? This side, this is the heat treated side. So let us take the same example. Okay, let us take the same example. What has happened in this graph? This is a light side, that is a 6061 metal. Here you can see that this area is a mix of dark and light color. That means from the right hand side, left hand side, metal has come to left hand side. From the left hand side, right hand side, metal has come. That is from 6061, metal has gone into 2014 side. From 2014, metal has gone into 6061 side. How it is possible? If both the metals are stronger and weaker, it is not possible. It will be possible only when the metal has almost having equal strength, right? So this has been proved. We have taken the macro structure. Everywhere you can see a segregation like this, the mixture of soft side and hard side. Everywhere, all the side you can see. So that means the hypothesis we introduced, it has worked, and we have done L9 array like this. We have changed speed, feed, the angle, all these things we have done. 9 experiments we have done. We have done for non-heat treated, okay, non-heat treated. We also done for heat treated. And we have given lot of solutions, like what is the solution we have given? We have given what we have given? We have given lot of observations from Taguchi. We have drawn levels. We have drawn level diagram between lower level, higher level. We have found out what is the influence. We found what is the possible range, which range will give you maximum output. All these things we have given. But the thing that it won't give you the actual physics. Am I right? Taguchi, which gives lot of insights. It gives you which is the lower parameter you have to use, what is the higher parameter you have to use, what is the range you have to use, what variation will give you what output. All these things it gives, but it won't give you the physics. But if you want to know the physics, we have done this. Here we have understood what has happened actually. Why it is increasing. Why we take, if you take this parameter, if you take this parameter, why there is an increase? If you take this parameter, why there is a decrease? So my humble request to the people who are doing Disanoff experiment is, Disanoff experiments will give you a lot of insights. It simplifies your problem. With the minimum number of experiments, you can get maximum output, maximum insights. But at the same time, don't forget about the process, right? The process, as I told you, the differential heat treatment I introduced, it is a process variation. It is nowhere, it is whole world research. Nobody introduced this concept. That is a process improvement. Don't forget about the process. You do something good about the process. Then you use Disanoff experiments in your process. Then it will give you a lot of insights. It will improve your productivity. It helps you to understand what happens. And the process, when you critically analyze, it will give you a lot of unknown information that you won't get in the traditional method. Okay, so this is the one I would like to stress upon. And with this, I'd like to conclude my thing. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So this is. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, participants can unmute and ask the question directly.
So I'd like to say hello to Eli Perumal. I have seen my close friend from Anna University, Nagargoil. From seeing his name itself, I had a doubt. So he has put a message.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Hope you are good.
Sir.
Yeah. So within this restricted time, 2 hours, I have started with the basics, some case studies, and I have
yes, sir.
Also. I don't know how 2 hours, how good it can put everything inside. I have doubt, but still, if you have any doubt, you can ask me.
In fact, many of them they were asking about nowadays Taguchi is more like a saturated, and most So I think you address that answer straight away, saying that the process is more important. If you can do some good thing to process, then I think any lower models like Taguchi, if you choose also, that is not a problem. I think
Yes,
that
yes.
fits well, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Basically, I was as part of this lecture, I also wanted to add 3 more slides.
Okay.
But since in the minute I changed the slide after seeing, I coming to know that this topic is already covered extensively by Kumar sir and other people. So I
Yes, sir.
could not do it. What I did was I went to Science Direct, and
Okay.
1978 what papers were published, 1980s what
Oh.
papers were published. Like that, I made a study.
Oh.
Okay, surprisingly, this 1970s people have used in chemical everywhere. 1980s and 90s other things, people have started using, combining FEA with Taguchi, combining chemical reactions with Taguchi, like that they have started using. And present
Yeah.
day, you surprisingly, if you see on any manufacturing related paper, what happens, most of the papers are getting published only in this manufacturing technology proceedings or something. Okay,
Okay.
reason is, um, you can search also. Science Direct, you need not subscribe. You can just see the title. Go to Science Direct and see Taguchi. All these recent papers, they are published only in manufacturing technology proceedings, and in a very reputed papers like manufacturing, materials processing technology, materials and design, such papers, they are not considering this Taguchi. At the same time, it is from the manufacturing perspective. But if you go to thermal, in the same 2000 itself, there are thermal papers where they have used Taguchi. But it has been published in very reputed papers like the thermal engineering, sustainable energy, something like that. It is published. So what I am telling is, still manufacturing people can probably use Taguchi and get it published in a very reputed journal. But only thing is, instead of restricting ourselves only to increasing and decreasing the ranges, such type of work, if instead of doing, you go into the process, you do more on the process and use it, then without the Taguchi, your insights will be less. So use Taguchi or any design of experiment concept also. Then the insight that you will get will be more, and you also can publish in very good journal. When 2020, when thermal and other people are able to use Taguchi, even electronics people are using, I was surprised. Okay, even to 2020, 2019 also, still Taguchi is relevant. Only thing is, you give more importance to the process, then definitely you can get it published. That is my suggestion.
Yes, sir. True, sir. Thank you, sir. Any other participants want to say anything? Speak to Davidson, sir. Clarify doubts.
Anyway, that calculation methods, hand calculation, I'll give a small PDF to Dr.
Sure, sir. I'll
Okay,
share with the
okay.
participants.
Yeah, actually, that is yeah, that is a very. I found a very nice literature, a 3-page only, very nice case study by some US university
Okay.
professor. That I will share the calculations. If you have anything else, you can ask me any doubt or thing.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
sir,
Yeah, yes,
first
sir.
of all, I need to appreciate our Dr. MJ Davidson, sir. He had put a great effort to collect all those information because in this Taguchi, he is father of all those things. He had brought all those things. I think he had put much more time to collect all those this year. I
Yes.
need to thank first, first of all for that effort, sir. Thank you very much. And sir, even if we are going ahead with this 5-factor and 3 levels, we can go ahead with the L9, sir.
This factors and level table.
Yes, sir.
There's a book called FATK. Okay, so they are given all the levels. for the various combinations, defined structural levels are there. Okay. So I cannot straight away say will it work or not. We have to find out. So for all the levels, you take the standard table and you formulate as per that. The only formula you have to, even if it is not available in the standard format, if it can satisfy the condition like give equal opportunity to everybody, that condition, if it's satisfied, you can use. But for a particular case, this many factor, this many level, you better follow the tables, the standard tables. Or even if you have a software also, it gives some software. Even design experiment, if you want, you put the number of factor and the number of levels, it gives you the number of tables also. It lists out the experimental matrix also. Design of experiment you are giving, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Lab you are introducing. Yeah, even that software also it gives. You need not spend much. You need not put your break your mind on it. You can use straight away those tables. Your effort should be on to find out the control factors and the noise factors. What is a control factor? What is a noise factor? That only if you concentrate. Getting a table very simple. You get from softwares or books.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you,
Another
sir.
thing
Thank
is
you.
I collected only from the book. I collected only from the book. I listed one book now. First book.
Yes, sir.
Taguchi, mathematics applications like that. There is a book. So I have taken from that book only. That's a nice book. All the cases I have taken, except from my cases, all other cases I have taken from that book.
But still, you have summarized it very nicely, sir, with very good history behind, like a walkthrough, and it was like a nicely descriptive way you have done it, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And if participants have anything else to ask, please, because sir has spent a lot of time.
They can also mail me if they want. They can mail me.
Yes, sir.
You can share my mail. They can mail me.
Sure, sir. All right, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. I am really thankful to have you here, sir, and you have really changed the slides and the opinions, the way we were understanding the Taguchi, and now that you have clarified the process is so important, and with your case studies and all. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you once again for accepting the request and presenting your case studies in front of all of us. And we are, I again, once again, thank all the participants for attending this session. And yeah, okay. So this is about the feedback form. Okay, now it's working, sir. Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. I also would like to thank the participants. Afternoon time, very difficult time.
Yes, sir.
Both to deliver lecture as well as listen, it is very difficult. I'd like to thank all the participants as well as the management of VIT and Varun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Yeah. May I leave then?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye.
Bye, sir.